Be joined from New Delhi, India by Swaran Singh, Professor of International Relations at the Jawaharlal Nehru University, from Beijing by Zhang Xiaoyu, Research Fellow at the Center for BRICS Studies. The warmest welcome to both of you. Let me go to Professor Singh first. Data shows that BRICS will overtake the G7, as I said, as an engine for growth. It will contribute to 32% of the world's growth, while the G7 will provide less than 30% this year. That's according to Bloomberg's calculation based on latest IMF data. So what do you read from the data? Are we witnessing a rebalancing of world economic power?
Very clearly, as you mentioned just now, BRICS, when they started about a decade plus back, they were about 10% of global GDP, and now you can see that their contribution to global growth rates is now 30%. So they were seen as emerging economies is one of the reasons why there is an enormous interest among several nations who want to join BRICS and become part and parcel of BRICS grouping. Second important element is that this is one of those very rare international multilateral groupings that has constantly had its summit meetings. So they have not been missing any year not to have, even during the pandemic, for example, they continue to have online summit meetings. And in none of the summit meetings ever any of the national leaders were not able to join. So the consistency of their commitment to the grouping and the share in global growth rate constantly going up is clearly now making BRICS, in at least purchasing power parity, a bigger grouping in terms of their collective GDP than even the advanced G7 nations. Second very important element, of course, is that China, along with its being world's largest trading partner for most nations around the world, Belt and Road Initiative leading to investments around the world, China has also been the leading voice from 2017 when we heard from Wang Yi talking about BRICS Plus as a possibility, Friends of BRICS possibility. BRICS outreach then became a reality. China has been a leading voice in thinking of expansion of BRICS. More recently, Russia has also added their voice because of the Western sanctions and Ukraine war. Russia would like to expand the support base in that sense, and the BRICS nations is one such platform which is a strong support base for Russia. So in that sense, because both China and Russia are really interested in getting more members in, and of course this is a very effective and emerging grouping, is why all other nations wish to also join BRICS as soon as they can, and hopefully there are reports that maybe 5 countries, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, UAE, Egypt, and Argentina may join in the summit meeting in August.
So is the prospect of de-dollarization for the members that are eyeing membership?
I think very clearly, recent years have noticed a certain dichotomy emerging. Russia, China, and the BRICS and SCO and some of these groupings being seen at variance, if not in opposition to mostly US-led Western groupings. And therefore, there is a sense at least to restrain that inordinate power that dollar has had. Even now, for example, 88% actually of global trade still happens in US dollar terms. About 60% of global foreign exchange reserves are still in dollar terms. But there has constantly been efforts to make sure that United States doesn't kind of weaponize that advantage in some time, for example, punishing other countries, like you're seeing sanctions on Russia right now. So that sense of ensuring balance and restraint has led to initiatives before. For example, Euro in European Union case was also an effort earlier like this. And now, of course, BRICS for quite some time has been debating on at least beginning with increasing use of local currencies. And then, of course, building some kind of consensus, if possible, on if there can be a BRICS currency. But that's a huge challenge, because if you look at the size of economies within BRICS, China's economy is roughly, if I'm not exaggerating, 3 times rest of all of them put together. So in that sense, there is always some kind of a concern that other nations may have of that inordinate size and influence and power that leverage that China has. And in that sense, whether yuan or some other currency should actually potentially replace or at least become a parallel currency for international trading. But let me also underline, BRICS is increasingly emerging as a successful example, if there is any example, which can withstand pressures of dollarization in terms of at least already BRICS nations expending a substantial amount of their trade between themselves at bilateral level, if not in multilateral format, using local currencies. There are some issues in that, for example, Indian and Russian trade in rupees. But if there is any alternative, I think BRICS is a great possibility here, but it's an uphill task. It's not going to be easy thing to de-dollarize.
Okay.